Car enthusiasts love shifting gears. If you were to ask a car person what one of the most satisfying feelings in the world is, there's a good chance they're going to reply with driving a manual transmission car. But, unfortunately, most of the world, or specifically the United States, really doesn't seem to agree with us. So manuals are slowly being killed off by consumerism. Because as crazy as it sounds, most people just want to drive from point A to point B and really don't want to be bothered with the task of shifting gears themselves. So in order to maintain a profit, a lot of car companies have been killing off their manual transmissions. However, not all is lost. There's still plenty of options out there if you're looking to get yourself a new car with a third pedal. So here are 12 cars that you can buy in 2018 with a manual transmission. Number 1. The Porsche 718 Cayman and Boxster GTS. The Boxster has been around since 1996 and the Cayman has been around since 2005. And while both are a step below the company's poster child, the 911, neither failed to provide an engaging and satisfying driving experience, which can be had through a manual transmission to this day. And while the Porsche 718 has been getting a lot of flack for having a 4-cylinder because the idea of a Porsche having anything other than a 6-cylinder is just obscene. I mean, it's not like every predecessor to the Cayman and Boxster have had a 4-cylinder or anything like that. I'm sure no one is complaining about the fact that you can buy a brand new Cayman or Boxster GTS with a 6-speed manual for a proper sports car driving experience. And with a lot of higher end sports cars dropping manual transmissions in favor of dual clutches or other types of automatic transmissions, we're definitely grateful that they still exist in the high performance variants of the Cayman and Boxster. Speaking of Porsche's poster child, number 2 is the 911 GT3. The GT3 is one of the gems of the 911 lineup, and to my surprise, you can still have this 493 horsepower track-focused driver's car with the 6-speed manual. While we expect that other 911s in the lineup would come with manual transmissions, some even with 7-speed manuals, it's still pretty awesome to see that you can rip through the gears on your own terms in this 199 mph race car. Although the PDK GT3 will sprint to 60 in 3.4 seconds while the 6-speed will do it in 3.9, if you're getting the manual, you're probably willing to make that slight sacrifice. Plus, GT3s really aren't about 0 to 60 times anyway. Sadly, however, that's where the manual ends. Once you get into the GT3 RS and the GT2 RS, your only options lie with the PDK transmission. But far from disappointing though, the PDK is a fantastic transmission. I honestly wasn't aware that the GT3 still came with a manual. For some reason, I was under the impression that they discontinued it in 2012. With the GT3 RS and GT2 RS only offering PDKs, I guess I just assumed that the GT3 came with a PDK only by default. But I'm glad to see that it's still available in this high-performance 911, and Porsche being a company that mainly produces driver's cars, I really don't see them killing the manual off anytime soon. Next, we have another pair of performance cars hailing from Germany, the BMW M3 and M4. The M3 has been one of the pinnacles of BMW performance since 1985, and the M4 delivers the same performance from a slightly different perspective. The M3 has been around for a while and has been seen in many different iterations, from coupes, sedans, wagons, 4-cylinders to V8s. The present F80 being offered with a 425 horsepower twin-turbo straight 6. But what every M3 has offered since its inception is a manual gearbox. And even though the dual clutch may be the more popular pick nowadays, the option to row through your gears yourself is still there. Which from modern day BMW is honestly a little surprising, but much appreciated. Even the next generation M3 and M4, the G80, is expected to be offered with a manual transmission. So it looks like BMW will continue to have a hand in the preservation of the manual gearbox. Continuing through the M division, we have the BMW M2 at number 4. The M2 is a slightly newer addition to the M division, coming with a newly added twin-turbo S55 straight 6, putting out a potent 405 horsepower, as opposed to the recently replaced single-turbo N55 unit that put out 365 horsepower. The M2 is offered as a smaller and slightly less expensive M car below the M3 and M4. However, many people argue that the M2 is really a better way to spend your money, if you're given the option between it or its bigger siblings. Especially with the updated M2 competition, it's really not lagging that far behind the M3 and M4 anymore. Like its M brethren, the M2 is also offered with a 6-speed manual to provide an engaging driving experience both on the road and the track. And apparently the manual M2 is a pretty hot seller. It's reported that around half, if not more, M2s sold in the US, out of all places, are sold with a manual. Hopefully BMW notes this and will continue to offer the M2 with a stick in years to come. At number 5, we move over slightly to the United Kingdom with the Lotus EVORA. The Lotus EVORA is one of the Lotus's best offerings, with a lightweight chassis weighing between 2,700 and 3,100 pounds, and with several performance models ranging up to the 430 horsepower GT430. as well as several lighter and better handling versions of that as well. Mind you, this is a supercharged V6 from a Toyota Camry, so it probably won't be breaking anytime soon. Being yet another track-focused but apparently slightly livable driver's car, the EVORA is still available with a 6-speed manual transmission. And it's more or less the most popular option with EVORA buyers because most people that buy these cars know exactly what they're getting and intend to use it on the track where it is intended to be used. If you're looking for a new car that will be a blast on a track day and will provide a raw, engaging driving experience, honestly for a decent price, then the EVORA might be for you. But if you're in the US, you're going to have to hit the used market because the EVORA was pulled from the market in 2015 due to not meeting crash regulations. And the rest of the Lotus models were pulled from the United States because apparently we can't tell a good car when it's right in front of us. However, the Elise is slated to return in 2020, so maybe we'll get the EVORA back one day too. Rolling in the second English car on this list, we have the Jaguar F-Type S. The F-Type hit the market in 2013 and took the world by storm with its striking good looks, ferocious exhaust note, and being considered one of the best Jags to be released in quite a while. However, when the F-Type was new, it left a lot of people who wanted a sports car with a stick something to be desired. That is until 2015 when Jaguar added a 6-speed manual to the S model. The S model being the 380 horsepower V6 version. However, it would be nice to have a manual with a 5-liter V8. The V6 is definitely no slouch, and definitely still sounds badass with its cracks and burbles. Many buyers would find the V6 to be plenty for their money anyway. So if you're looking for a new sports car with a satisfying analog driving experience, you might want to put the F-Type S on your list. Next, we take a trip back over to Germany with the B9 Audi A4 2.0T. Yes, as of this moment in time, Audi is still offering a 6-speed on their popular compact executive car. The manual only being offered on the 252 horsepower 2.0 turbo model. Sadly, the manual S4s and S5s of yesteryear are no longer being offered. However, the A4s are definitely well-known cars in the tuner community, providing surprising punch and decent handling for what they are, as well as very good tunability. I'm sure if you were to grab yourself a B9 A4 and toss on an APR tune, you'd find yourself very content with your purchase. However, the fact of the matter is that most new A4 buyers are retired old folk or people who work white-collar positions, and they just want to get to their destination relaxing on heated and ventilated seats, not having to worry about anything such as using a clutch. So, if you're trying to get yourself a manual B9 A4, you better hop on it now, because the manual option is slated to be dropped from the North American market in 2019. Next is another Volkswagen product to be the Mark 7 Golf R. As of right now, you can still have Volkswagen's 292 horsepower all-wheel drive hot hatch in a 6-speed, or 310 horsepower if you're in Europe. The Golf R is for buyers who want a little more from a GTI as well as 2 extra drive wheels. And the R, like other turbo Audis and Volkswagens, is known for its vast tuning capabilities, as well as sufficient handling. It's said to be a good medium between cars like the GTI and Focus RS, as well as being a great daily driver. Now, the Golf R with a DSG is hands down faster than the Golf R with a 6-speed. The DSG putting down a 0 to 60 of around 4.2 seconds, and the manual putting down a 0 to 60 of 4.7, give or take. But if you're not in it for the 0 to 60 and you just wanted the experience of driving a sleek hot hatch with a stick, Volkswagen is more than happy to provide you with that option. And apparently, I honestly find this hard to believe, Volkswagen sells around 50% of their Rs with manuals in the United States. Like I said, that's just one report I've read. I find that pretty hard to believe, but if that actually is the case, that's pretty cool. Next, we have what I find to be somewhat of a shocking offering from the land of 2% of new cars are sold with manuals, the Cadillac ATS-V. The ATS-V is a twin-turbo 464 horsepower V6 little brother to the 640 horsepower V8 CTS-V, the latter only being offered with an 8-speed automatic. The ATS-V, however, is surprisingly offered with a 6-speed manual. This car is more or less aimed to compete with cars like the M3 and AMG Mercedes models, and given the numbers that this thing is putting down, it seems like it can be quite a competitor to those cars. The ATS-V is only offered as a rear-wheel drive coupe or sedan, and even though I just got done making a video bashing GM for making some god-awful looking cars, I'm not gonna lie, the ATS-V is a good looking car. It has a very aggressive looking front fascia, and the styling is just right. Nothing on it seems really overdone, and I hope that GM keeps it that way in years to come. So if you happen to want a potent luxury sedan or coupe, and you want to select what gear you're in yourself, the ATS-V might have your number. Speaking of potent luxury sedans, our next car is the Alfa Romeo Giulia QUADRIFOGLIO. Giulia Q4 is one of the cars used in Alfa Romeo's comeback to the United States market in the executive segment, alongside the Porshce and the Stelvio. It also is their latest super saloon, offering a 2.9-liter twin-turbo V6 putting down 503 horsepower and reaching a top speed of 191 miles per hour, as well as stellar handling characteristics. This can all be had through a 6-speed manual as well. It's definitely one of the few, if not the only sedans in the market putting down that kind of performance with a manual transmission. That is, unless you live in the US, as you can only have the 8-speed automatic in the United States. There have been all kinds of rumors as to whether or not ALFA is going to be bringing over the manual GIULOA to the States, and so far it seems like it's a resounding no. So if you live in Europe and you want a manual 503 horsepower luxury sedan, you might want to look into the QUADRIFOGLIO. Next up is another car that took me by surprise, the Genesis G70. Unless you've been living under a rock, you know that Hyundai launched a standalone luxury brand called Genesis, so far offering the G80, G90, and more recently the G70. And surprisingly, the G70 does offer an optional 6-speed manual as long as you opt for the 2.0 turbo model. The G70 rides on a shortened Stinger platform and is said to maintain several characteristics of the Stinger, responsive handling and plantedness being some of them. This car has received a lot of praise from journalists since it's been released. And even though Genesis is new to the premium car segment, it should offer some pretty substantial competition to companies like Mercedes, BMW, and Audi. This car also has one of the nicest interiors in the segment, in my opinion. So if you're looking for a luxurious yet fun sedan with 3 pedals, the G70 should be in the running. Lastly, we have a new hot hatch from Hyundai that so far is only offered with a manual transmission, the VELOSTER N as well as the i30N. The Hyundai N series, N meaning Nürburgring, is Hyundai's newest performance division that seems to have come out of nowhere, under the guidance of Albert Biermann, who was once head of BMW's M division, so he kinda knows what he's doing. The i30N has been on sale in Europe for a little bit now, and the VELOSTER N was set to be released this fall in the US, but so far we haven't gotten anything yet, so we're getting pretty eager over here to get this thing in the US. Both models are offered from around 250 horsepower up to 275 horsepower with the performance pack, as well as adding a electronic limited slip differential. So far, it's speculated that the VELOSTER N is set to be sold for under $29,000 with the performance package. So if that's the case, this sounds like a pretty good deal. And car reviewers have been loving this thing, reporting back a punchy acceleration, nimble and responsive handling, and to top it all off, an exhaust note that sounds absolutely mental. It even has legit anti-lag. Like, not just sound enhancement, like this thing legitimately has anti-lag from the factory. I wasn't really intending to put any manual-only cars on this list, but I feel like the Hyundai VELOSTER N and i30N really deserve a spot, because they're a new manual-only offering in a world of automatics. Plus, the internet needs to be reminded that Hyundai isn't the same car company that they were back in 1995. They've been killing it the past couple years. Like, people hate on this car just because it has a Hyundai badge, and apparently Hyundai has no business making fast or even good cars, for that matter. The backlash this car has been getting on the internet is absolutely stupid, and I'll probably make a standalone video on it at some point. But until then, especially with Ford killing off the Fiestas and Focuses in the US, let's just appreciate the fact that we have another hot hatch option on the market. At this point, it's pretty much every single week there are new rumors floating around of what companies are going to be killing off manuals or what models are going to be dropping manuals for the next model year. The future really looks uncertain and more or less bleak for us that enjoy manual transmissions, especially in the United States, with less than 3% of cars being sold being offered with manual transmissions, and that number only expected to drop rapidly in the years to come. However, as I just listed, not all hope is lost. There's still quite a few desirable options out there if you're looking to buy yourself a new car with a manual transmission. And thankfully, it seems like a few companies have still been listening to enthusiasts who demand a more engaging driving experience. And hopefully those companies will continue to listen to us so that we are able to enjoy shifting gears for many years to come. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next week.